Alright, we're starting. We're starting.
Prepare us.
Okay.
Okay.
Welcome everyone back. It's been like a month or so since we've last done this, but bear with us. This is the 8th Theory Crafting Roundtable. Today I am joined by Azel, Monochrome, a staff member from KQM, and he will be our guest. I'm again joined by Citri, Tenten, and Zajev. Right?
Hello, everyone. Yep,
The
we have
last
a
time we met, what was happening in Genshin?
It was right before Ito come out.
It was for Ito release.
This
was a long time ago.
Yeah, so we've gone through an entire
Month?
entire
Entire
banner
patch?
and some. So yeah, welcome back everyone. I hope that you all had a great holiday. We celebrated some birthdays and a ton of stuff over the time where we were gone, and honestly, it was a much needed break from Genshin Theory Crafting and stuff. So, without further ado, we can go ahead and start. We don't have any like sponsorships or anything to really chat about, so
Sponsored? Okay. That'd be...
no Raid Shadow Legends.
Kuching Mains is sponsored by no.
I think our code expired already. Okay. Anyway, let's get started.
Yep, okay. We have a lot of topics, so I guess we can go through it chronologically. Let's talk about like Ito and just continue from there. What do you guys think?
Sounds good.
We can do that.
Okay. Who wants to
Any
open?
outstanding takes on Ito? I think I can just do the opener. So Ito, obviously 5-star Geo Claymore, meant to definitely be like the carry. He was paired up with Goro, a Geo support character that scales up with his own defense and other Geo characters, and they are pretty cool. I mean, I don't think there's much out there that says that Ito and Goro are like really bad or anything.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I like Ito. He's pretty balanced. He's not like broken, but he's definitely like very far from weak. So it's pretty cool. Like, just there's the thing I like about Ito is he practically doesn't have that many downside. Unlike like other character, he just practically doesn't have downside. Aside from like he's Geo, I guess.
Yeah, he just does his own thing. He's kind of like Zhao in that he's agnostic, which is he draws some comparisons for some people, but I think he has his own niche carved out where he's just comfortable, less AoE potential, but because you're in a 4-3 or 4, maybe 2 Geo shell, it's going to be a lot comfier than Zhao. And he's agnostic in a different way from Zhao. So they care about few things, but they care about different things in the game.
Can you explain the term agnostic a little bit?
Okay, so how most units are built is there are certain key units, and most teams are dependent on either Bennett or Xingqiu, to the point that Zajev has 2 columns in his team building spreadsheet dedicated to say dependent on this character, yes, no. And most teams are Xingqiu dependent or Bennett dependent, or maybe even both. And Zhao and Ito are dependent on neither, which is both a good and a bad thing.
I think if you want to say agnostic in terms of agnostic like in Bennett and Xingqiu dependence, then yes, I would agree for that to be true. However, I think there's an argument to be made that Ito is dependent in a different way that is also pretty bad upon Zhongli and Albedo, who are 2 5-stars.
Yep. Ito come with Albedo and Ito come with Albedo, you can actually see a lot of differences. The interesting thing that from what I calculated is Ito personal damage, assuming you don't have like Red Horn on him, since Red Horn is a huge damage increase on him, is that his damage is actually quite average, and you can even say it's on the lower end of hyper carry comps. However, his team damage is not that behind hyper carry comps, by the virtue that he has Albedo, who actually outputs a really respectable amount of damage, just by the virtue that the units that support Ito also supports Albedo. So Albedo becomes actually the second carry in those comps, and he also reduced Ito ER requirements by around 20 to 30% just through his particle chain, even though he's quite RNG. That I would say Ito without Albedo performs significantly lower than Ito with Albedo.
He's reliant on units that are 5-star, so they're not available to everyone. But like, it's also he's not reliant on units that are wanted by other comps very much, right? So it's a different thing to the Bennett and Singto reliance, because he is reliant on those units, but using those units isn't going to prevent you from making a strong second comp, which is what most Singto and Bennett reliant comps, like, that's their biggest downside, is you only have one, right? Whereas on Ito, the question is just, do you have them or do you not? And if you do, he's pretty strong. And if you don't, he's a bit on the weaker side.
I think kind of compare it also to Ganyu in some sense, because a lot of people are like, oh, Ganyu is dependent on 5 stars, so she's bad. But Ganyu, the Morgana team, you have Ganyu and Mona. Mona is used in basically like no comps outside of free. So if you're using like Ganyu and Ayaka, then maybe, yeah, your other side wants Mona. But other than that, she's not going to be used in that many teams. And Venti. And yes, Venti is still highly valuable in a lot of teams, but like the amount to which a lot of teams depend on him is not that high, really. There aren't that many teams in the meta currently that are like, I need to have Venti to function. Maybe you could make an argument for Pure Pyro, Bennett, Xiaoling, Kazuo, Venti, which I know Zajif is a big fan of. But there aren't really that many teams that like say, I need Venti. So I would say that kind of shares that similarity to Morgana.
By the way, outside of Albedo and Zhongli, you can also say Ito is dependent on Goro a lot. Now, obviously, Goro was on Ito banner, but that does not mean that you guarantee a Goro by rolling on the Ito banner, which is pretty tragic if you don't have Goro. So that's another thing. For the time period.
The way that I look at Ito is, you either have to go all in for him, then you will really like him. But if you don't, he doesn't feel he doesn't feel that great. You have to go for Albedo, which comes right before his banner, so it might be an issue saving up. You have to go for Red Horn. You have to go for Goro. You have to go for Ito himself, and then if you want to be like ultra good comp, then you also have to have Zhongli, which at that point there's so many requirements.
I don't really like Zhongli and Ito comps.
As the fourth or as like a third, in terms of Geo?
Well, Zhongli is the most flexible one in that comp, right? Because usually you can replace Zhongli with another shielder, just like anything that like gives more insurance, or you have like a shield breaker. But if you want like the maximum damage potential for Ito, that is not Bennett, then I'm pretty sure it's Zhongli.
Yeah, but realistically, you're always either gonna need a grouper or like shield breaker, or like the amount of situations where Zhongli is actually best in slot, even if it's possible that he's the best fourth slot, is like, it's not gonna be that much. I just don't really like him too much, honestly, as a in Ito teams. And like I definitely don't think the difference between a Zhongli team and a non-Zhongli team is going to be very large either.
Who do you replace Zhongli with? Like, just give an example or a couple.
Kokomi.
Kokomi is actually a good choice. TCS Kokomi, or do you run some form of Or do you just run? Oh,
I
think
mean,
you just go to
ideally you
CDS.
just run Bennett, but like not everyone
Ideally,
has
you run
Bennett
Bennett.
available for that team.
I mean,
Attack
any
buffs
healer.
on Ito is quite saturated.
Yeah,
so I
it's
don't really
like-
appreciate CDS. that much.
It's the thing about attack buffs is like, yes, they don't work that well on Ito, especially attack percent
Still a
buffs,
buff.
but like they still do
It's
things.
still a buff.
True, yeah.
They still going to increase your damage. It's just not as much comparable to other units. I think that's just this is like kind of tangent, but I think it's kind of just the general Genshin community, or maybe just theory crafters in specific, or people who know more about the game in specific, have a tendency to focus on like, this does less for my unit, so it must be terrible. For example, attack percent is worse than crit, so I only want crit value on my artifacts, while ignoring the fact that attack percent is still very good for your units, and that it can make one artifact better than the other, even though it has lower crit value. Things like that. And while it's true that Kokomi off field does like what 40k, 50k damage in a rotation, like it's very low. And TTDS is less effective on her than it would be on like Xiao. It's still something.
I mean, we're kind of rapidly approaching like that point of like there's a lot of units, and the interactions between each other and the effectiveness between each comp is going to matter like I would say much less, in the sense that like obviously not everyone will have every character, and not everyone will like use like the same old staples, like
Mhm.
you could reasonably draft teams that don't use Bennett or Xiangling. Yeah. Fun
Wait,
fact,
what?
you can reasonably draft like what I'm saying is like there's probably an appreciable number of accounts out there that have the pieces to really draft teams in the Abyss to clear very well and comfortably without using the quote unquote best units anymore, right? And that's only going to, that number of people and the number of comps
Possible teams.
only grows from here on, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
in that sense, like meta still matters. Knowing the value of a unit still matters, but these skills like teaching people how to build team comps and stuff, that's probably even more important than knowing like exactly how powerful a unit. All you really need to know is like, okay, Ito's a Geo unit. He does a lot of charge attacks. He scales off of defense. Has a lot of multipliers on it. What can you slot in with him? And there's a lot of information packed into that. What kind of team can you put together? And no, I mean it's a hard skill, and it's different for every unit, right? Like I would know fuck all how to build a team for Lisa or something like that. So
I think that you can keep going, Art.
No, I'm done.
Okay, yeah, I think that point also is kind of the reason why I was talking about this with Tenten. I think it was like a week or so, probably longer. But I think I mentioned something about like, Ito doesn't need like meta supports, so he's good. But I think that a good point that Tenten said was like, I think like I'm not sure this is exactly what you said, Tenten.
Yeah,
but I think
I
it was
know what
something
you're talking
along the
about,
lines
yeah.
like we already have so many teams that
Yeah.
don't need these meta supports. The value of not needing meta supports decreases
Yeah.
every day.
I'm not
Because now we
a-
have
yeah.
like pure Geo Ito teams, and you don't need Xingqiu for those. And
Yeah.
now we have Ayaka Freeze. You don't need Bennett for those. And like there are just so many more teams now that I guess how Art put it a couple weeks back, or probably like a couple months back now at this point, is that there are so many teams that are orthogonal to each other that the value of being non-reliant on specific units is steadily decreasing.
Yeah, so exactly what I said is people always have this mindset of, especially on Hu Tao, it's like, oh, Hu Tao is so good because she doesn't need Bennett. But in my personal opinion, that's just fallen off, because like, how many characters truly need Bennett? We have Hu Tao, who doesn't need Bennett. Ayaka Freeze doesn't need Bennett. Morgana, which is a Ganyu, doesn't need Bennett. Ito with Full Geo doesn't need Bennett. Xiao does not need Bennett. So you can say the argument that doesn't need Bennett about half the character in the game or something like that already. So I feel like this character is so good because they don't need Bennett, it's just not really a valid argument anymore. It surely helps.
I mean, it's still a factor.
It's still a
just-
factor, but I think it's like I feel like people it's too focused on it. It's like, oh, this character is so good because
Yeah.
they don't need Bennett. I feel like it's just too over focused at this point.
Only two
selling
characters that
point.
need Bennett currently, I would say, is Hyper Carry Raiden and Xiangling.
Changling.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And that's honestly that's the main reason why I don't like Hyper Carry Raiden that much, is because you can't run both that and Changling. Like you
What
can't.
do you mean? Just run Rated National. Then you can both Raiden and Changling and Bennett. Pocket.
And
Very
Xingqiu.
true.
Might
And
as well just
Xingqiu.
jump every character that you need.
Just use
Anyway.
every unit ever that you need and leave your other side with. I mean, you can still play Freeze comfortably on the other
Yeah,
side,
you
so it's
can
not a
play,
big problem
like-
if you have like Ayaka Freeze with Coco.
You could
but-
play, yeah. I mean, like you play with like a Coco. Main,
Still a bit
I mean,
hard.
like that's what that's the thing, right? So like units that are not S tier anymore, or not what we would consider in like the upper echelons of like DPS or support, like their value is still really really high because they interact with other characters that are not in like that subset of comms that use like the same units, right? So like
Mhm.
Kokomi's value is actually really fucking high, because if you want a team that drags Xingqiu, Bennett, Xiangling, you still have Hydro and you still have a healer on the other side, right? Jean fulfills a similar role to a lesser extent, and I don't know, the state of theory crafting is quite interesting, and how we're gonna kind of interface with that is going to be really interesting. I'm very keen on seeing how Zajiv's team building guide is gonna go.
Yeah,
hope
It's not good.
it's a lot of work.
Dude, for the
Yeah.
longest time, I
Let's
wanted
just say
to.
it's not gonna see the light of day for a while.
For the longest time, I wanted to make a team building guide until I realized there isn't a formula of building team in Genshin, and then I was like,
There really isn't. You just have to know
Yeah.
so much. You really do.
Really, the team building formula is just teach someone everything in
it's
the
put
game.
it's
and
put
then tell
four
them to
characters
put
that
together
work
a
really
team.
well together into a team. That's the team
Yeah,
building.
the way that I wanted to do it is just separate things into archetypes, right?
Oh yeah, that's I wanted to
And
make
then
it
each-
do that.
Yeah, and then each team archetype has a way you can build it,
Yeah,
and
that's
generally
what I
has an
wanted.
optimal way you can build it.
Yeah,
as
I was just gonna back before I go on holiday, I was gonna make a video called every single meta team in Genshin, but then I got lazy. So
Yeah. So, and that kind of leads into. I don't want.
are we? By the way, are we still on Ito?
Well,
Are we done with Ito?
KQM is like gearing up to do something very similar,
Mhm.
with calculations and stuff like that. At least collecting different team compositions and their rotations and their calculations and putting them somewhere. Yeah.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah. Are we still on Ito?
Just your list if you want.
Because my topic
I
list
mean, we
is.
kind of just straddled.
Yeah, we
it,
kind of
right?
straddle from Ito,
I mean, is
but
there anything else that you want to say about Ito?
I don't.
Oh, wait, I actually do have one thing. Some person in my personal server, because I have a personal server where I basically just host the calculator that I make, and people can submit calculations if they want, and we talk about them, and they ask me questions. How do you use this calculator? Someone submitted this really interesting calculation. I think it was like Ito with Favonius, Beto, Fischl, and Bennett or something, and it was like about as much damage
Oh,
as a
Ito
normal
Driver,
team.
right?
Dude,
It's like
Yeah,
Ito-
Ito Driver. It was
Favonius
hilarious.
weapons are so good.
Yeah.
It was actually
It was so
actually
funny.
crazy. Zadev, you
It-
should
it-
see the count. It's literally like 40,000 DPS or something like that. It's insane.
Wait, what is it? Ito with Beidou?
Yeah, let me find it.
Kek- Wait.
Ito with his charge attack can reliably get like 10 to 12 like procs easily.
Check wait.
Mhm.
Like 10 is on the lower end. Like he can get average 12 Beto procs. So in 2-3 situations where Ito's already really good at, that comp deals a lot of damage.
Yeah.
it's these kinds of like situations that where like I really kind of want to start collecting this knowledge somewhere. Maybe
Well,
we can lessen the burden on one person really writing it, and just have like a bunch of like the things that we've ever known about any team comp and every calc that we've done, every rotation we've done, just listed out somewhere with plenty and plenty of writing down for each comp. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like the future far off for KQM, but that's in general what we're working on.
Yep. Also, just to clarify, I'm not saying that this is the best Edo comp. I'm just saying this is Favonia's weapons are kind of cracked, and Beto and Fischl are kind of cracked. To be clear, this comp does assume optimal conditions for Beto in that you're hitting 2 targets exactly. While normal Ito teams, because Ito's charge attacks have a large AoE and all that, they can scale better in 3, 4 target, whatever. But I thought it was a funny thing to mention, and it shows how there are just so many like different aspects to team building. You can make a team like this and make it still work. You just have to know how units function together. Same concepts behind a lot of weird, funky teams like Sukokomon. That just requires you to know like basically everything about reactions.
I mean every meta team composition post like learning about Diluc is pretty much kind of like the same philosophy.
Yeah.
Like Ganyu and Venti interact in a very strange way that's not exactly normal.
Quadratic scaling. Haha.
Yeah, so I mean like it's not isolated to new units or anything. It's
Yeah.
been an ongoing thing, and it's
I-
kind of hard
That's-
to catch up.
Go for it, Tishri.
That's one of the reasons why I think teaching how to build team comps is so hard, because when you say you want to teach people how to build teams, it's analogous with saying that you already have to assume that people understands how like most of units work like in a vacuum and work with each other. Because the reasons why teams in Genshin don't follow a formula because certain units have really strong synergy with each other that cannot be described in a generalistic manner, such as sub DPS, DPS, carry, enabler, because they're like some really minute or specific interactions between them, like how Xingqiu applies just enough Hydro for Rita to vape every charge attack of her, and that's why like they have really high synergy compared to Xingqiu with other Pyro DPS, for example, and minute stuff like that. So it's hard to like balance between teaching people how to build team comps who are required and like still allow them critical thinking of like they can build whatever team they want based on that knowledge, and also not throwing them an encyclopedia of character interactions. It's a very hard task to take up. So if anyone can do it, like, have my full respect.
Yeah. I think we move on from Ito. I mean, do you
Yeah,
have any
I
choice
think
between
overall
or
Ito
Goro
is
here?
pretty cool. He's pretty balanced. I personally think Ito is the most balanced character, more balanced than Xiao, and that's pretty much it. It's like,
Yeah.
Actually, I do have one thing I want to say. I think there's a lot of value in how easy he is to play.
Oh yes.
Not
Oh,
like
yeah.
easy in the sense that like Diluc is easy. Easy in the sense that like once you solve his energy problem, you kind of just
left
play.
click, kind of, or you
Yeah,
just
you don't really need to know the rotation. You
Mm-hmm.
just play Ito. I think
So
that's pretty valuable, pretty fun.
the interesting about Ito combo is you don't learn a specific combo like with Raiden or with Eula, where you have to learn like a specific combo you have to do in like 7 or 10 seconds. With Ito, you learn small rules to use him. Like you learn how
Full of Eula was
You-
like that smooch.
you learn how you have like max 5 stacks. So you just kind of time and then just use the charge attack, and after you E, you try to do a finisher, stuff like that. Like you learn this rules that you can dynamically apply while you're playing him. Because he has a lot of RNG coupled into his stack mechanic with the way the his elemental skill works. So it's you can play him semi-effectively by just remembering like 4 different combos for 4 different situations and just play him like that. But first, it's really hard to remember all of that when like you're getting just you're getting ganked by so many enemies and there's a time pressure on you and you have to learn to rotate well and stuff. And honestly, the damage difference between knowing like the most optimal combo and just like learning those rules and just play them by flow, it's not much. Like, it's from what I've seen, most of them are less than 10%, and missing your rotation by 2 seconds, which is very possible, is already like a 12% damage loss. So 10%, less than 10% is not something that I care too much about. So he can become complicated if you want to, but there's no reason to. Basically.
So moving on from there, is there anything else anyone wanted to say?
Yeah, pretty
on
much
Final
it.
Fight?
I think pretty good. Like I
Mhm.
feel like
Who came
everyone.
out after.
If
Was
you
it
if
Shenhe?
it's a. Is it? It's Shenhe, right?
Is it
No,
Shenhe?
wait. Do we want to talk about Goro? I mean, Goro. There's nothing to talk about, but just This is
Goro,
also-
he's a good support for Noel. He's
Good for Noel and
He's
Ito.
a
Good for
support
Albedo.
Ito.
Bye.
That's,
Okay.
that's some punchies
He's
with
so
that.
simple.
Yep.
Okay, move on.
Mm.
Shenhe or Shen. It's we have the Xiao rerun and Shenhe. So
I think
which
we
one
should
do you
talk
guys
about
want to talk
Who
about
did-
first?
Did
Shenhe's
Ito
the
get
new
rerun with
character.
someone?
Okay.
Xiao?
Did Ito get rerun with someone?
No, I don't think so.
Get me up?
Got one with Child, right?
What?
Shut up.
Dude, this is so long ago. I don't remember. No,
Ito
I think I'm pretty
solo.
sure
Yes,
Ito was
Ito was
solo.
solo.
Okay. Okay, so
Okay. Shenhe.
Wait,
yeah,
Shenhe
we
or
can talk
Xiao?
about dual banners. We can talk about dual banners. We can talk about Shenhe. We can talk about Yinjin.
Any
Fine,
Xiao
like,
gamer?
whatever.
What? Okay.
I have a lot to say about Shenhe, so if you
We can
guys
talk
want
about
to
her,
talk
right?
about
Yeah.
other stuff first, I'm fine.
I
with
think most people want to know our thoughts on her as well because she's a new
I mean-
character.
Oh yeah.
I can summarize it somewhat. So, when we were first theory crafting Shenhe, there was a lot of focus on her ice quills, or is it icy quills? Whatever.
Icy
her,
quill.
Her E stacks.
Icy quills,
Her
yeah.
icy quills. Yeah. Basically, they trigger on any cryo instance per character. So, there's a lot of interest on whether or not she could really boost your damage by an appreciable amount. But we kind of glanced over the amount of buffs that Shenhe really gives you, and now we're much more receptive to the idea that Shenhe is a very strong unit, just because of how powerful her buffs are and how potent they are for cryo characters. Obviously, there is some discussion to be had about, okay, well, do your cryo characters really need this bonus? They already have Blizzard Strayer. They already have very strong the two most powerful cryo units already have very strong interactions with units like Kazuha and Mona. Do they really need more damage? Blah blah blah. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of where the discourse is still at today. I don't think anyone really has a good answer for that. I think I'm not sure what the general perception is of Shenhe is, but as for TC, she's quite potent for crowd characters.
I would say that Shenhe is probably she's I would actually put her as like Albedo level of like easy to build and not really easy to use, and you need to know like, how to rotate her quills and stuff. But just like from a building perspective, she's very easy to build. The general philosophy that I have taken to her is she's a very selfless unit, because in most situations, at one point, her buffs overtake her buffing capabilities take over her quills damage, especially after 2-3 targets plus. That if you can just build her as cheap as possible while like still providing your team utility, you will find success with her. One thing to note is that her buff seems really in like the numbers itself doesn't seem that impressive. However, like they stack multiplicatively. If you notice, she gives resistance shred, which is 1 type multiplier. She gives damage percent, which is 1 type multiplier, and the damage she applies is just like pure base damage. So it also benefits from those same multipliers she gives. And an interesting thing about cryo carries is, cryo carries the thing that cryo carry lacks the most is actually attack buffs, not crit or damage percent buffs. They have abundance of those, and Shenhe benefits from those who have a lot of crit and damage percent buffs. So one thing that I like to do, and from what I calculated, is just run noblesse on her, and she doesn't even want her best slot weapons that much, because yes, it's still her best weapon. You still see damage increase, but her personal damage in like most realistic situations are not that high. So it's actually not that worth going for Calamity Queller when her buffs are just a scale on investments, and they're super cheap. They require you to level her like decently. That's it.
Dude, I remember when she came out, I was like, you know what? Fuck this. Favonius is her best in slot. Fuck Calamity Queller.
Like
No. Skyward Spine Yang.
Skyward Spine.
Skyward
game.
Spine is actually good on her. It's hilarious.
It is pretty good actually.
So one thing that like I learned, a lesson I draw from Shenhe is that yes, if you calculate out, you will see there's a 20% damage increase to Calamity Queller from Favonius Lance, but you have to put it in the context of she is a support / sub DPS. In Ganyu Aya comms, she provides more often than not less than 30% of your team's damage. So that 20% actually doesn't translate to that much team DPS. So
Yeah, and then
It's
you can
actually
compare
not
it
that
to
worth.
you can compare it to the damage increase you get from generating particles from Favonius,
mhm.
right?
yep.
And,
And
it's
it
very
balances that out.
comparable. Yeah.
Mhm. Like the same logic applies to Blizzard Strayer versus Noblesse on Shenhe as well,
Yep.
where you see around like a 5 to 10% damage increase with Blizzard Strayer, depends on AoE. But then you also have to take into account that the damage you're gonna pair her with also has AoE, and Noblesse also buffs her and her teammates, and it all again balances itself out. So that's why I say like build her as selfless as possible. Go full support on her, and you will have a good time. And it's easier to build as well.
Yeah, I
Mm.
mean, I don't really think like Shenhe is particularly broken, but I don't think she's weak either. There's a lot of like idea that Shenhe is really niche because she only wears cryo, but I honestly think it's fine, especially since cryo
Yeah.
character is so strong. Like that.
Yeah, that's my thing too.
Mhm.
Is just like over focusing on her nicheness was also a problem. Like very early on, a lot
Yeah,
of the
I don't think Shenhe is needed at all. She can play as a sub DPS in like reverse mode Rosaria or mono crowd team with 4 stars, and then if you don't, or if you happen to have Ayaka or Ganyu, then you can just pair Shenhe with those 2 characters together and make
Yep.
a really strong
Mhm.
crowd team. And all of those cases are like really strong. So I think like if you roll Shenhe, you will be able to get value out of Shenhe no matter what, even if you don't
So,
have Ayaka
Okay,
or Ganyu.
that being said though, you really don't need to, because she's not a really, like in a lot of teams she's literally
Yeah.
damage decrease from KO or Rosaria.
Yeah,
Right?
the-
Shenhe is a great unit because she's about as good as KO and Rosaria, which are
Balance
also
above.
great
great
units.
units. Yes.
Okay. So one
So the
thing.
Kazuha situations, Ajay.
Yep.
I think the only thing about Shenhe is just like you don't need her. Like there's not any better reason to roll her because her value is just not
Mhm.
very high. It doesn't mean she's weak. People always associate like pull value equivalent to how a strong character is like, oh, this character is not worth rolling because they're weak. That's not always the case. You know, there are
I call that
characters.
Asian parents mentality.
Yeah, there
where,
are
like,
characters
there's
that's
a-
not worth rolling simply because either like better alternative exist or like they're strong but they're not necessary. Shenhe is a strong character, but it's just not worth rolling for her. But that also means if you like Shenhe, like you don't care for meta, you just care to have a Shenhe because you like Shenhe. That's a really good thing about it. It's like, oh, you
Yeah.
have a good time about Shenhe.
Yeah, I love that balancing so much, where she's a competitive option in strong meta teams, but she's not a better option. You don't need to roll for her. She's one of the options that are available, but because her mechanics, because of her icy quills, are like different from a lot of other units, she ends up playing differently.
Yep.
and then there's also
Mhm.
the waifu factor for some people, and then you just end up in a situation where you don't actually get power creep, but you still get new teams, new playstyles, and new units that
Yeah.
that people can have a reason to roll
Mhm.
for,
Like,
which is like it's perfect.
It definitely wraps around again, just like Kazuha, and just like we were talking about earlier, that like a lot of units don't have to be the best anymore to be very good units.
Mhm.
There's a lot of room nowadays, and especially so when they design characters like Kazuha. Well, maybe not Kazuha because he's a little bit warping because of grouping, but Shunha specifically, and probably more characters in the future, will probably interact with others in a very similar way. They're like, you can think of how special and unique the mechanics are for Shunha and Yunjin, that they're not really afraid to really experiment with how um units should interact with each other, right?
Mhm.
So I think if you want to pull for Shenhe, go ahead. I don't think there's much in the way of you not really like not much in the way of you like regretting it, right? If you specifically like playing units, like cryo units that you want to see a little bit bigger numbers for, like Chongyun and Shenhe are pretty fun together.
Yep.
Maybe not the best, but they're pretty fun together. And she definitely has her places, and she'll probably have more places in the future.
Mhm. Like, when people ask me if they should roll for Shenhe or not, I usually just tell them that how much do you value having a Rosaria C6 out the box? Because at baseline, she is Rosaria C6 level. Like, at just her baseline. Like, you get to C0, she's around that level. And it can go higher, depends on what comp you run her, especially in Ayaka and Ganyu comps.
I don't agree. Really, in Ganyu
Mhm.
comps,
In Ganyu comps, I would say so, yes.
even with
Tabbies.
the like rotations not lining up with her 20-second burst.
I would say so because, like, I don't think rotating around 15 seconds is like that strict as people say, because 15-second rotation only really matters when you need to keep maximum freeze up time. When you don't need maximum freeze up time, I think 20-second rotation is still very forgiving if you just do charge shots on Ganyu.
I mean, yeah, but you're losing out on a lot of your bursts damage, right? On Ganyu, on whatever animal unit you have, on
So one thing about that is that, how do I put this? We usually like judge rotations by 15 seconds, 20 seconds rotations. But if you look at it practically, in a floor, your damage thresholds on like a floor doesn't necessarily fit that 15 and 20 seconds rotation that well. So the thing about shorter rotations, that like just usually we define rotations like the old cycles. So there are a lot of cases where shorter rotations run into a problem where you just miss the damage, but it's not worth it for you to use your ult because you don't get the full value. So that's one of the things that I actually enjoy more about slightly longer rotations, because the damage drop off of having to spend your ult on this rotation just to like do a finisher, an overkill finisher, is sometimes not worth it compared to having a more stable damage, a more stable damage chart over slightly longer just to like get the kill off. That's one.
I mean, that's fair, but that's like given equal DPS, right? And the thing is, when you go from a 15 to a 20-second rotation in a freeze Ganyu comp, like you lose a lot of DPS.
You lose around, let me see, 25%. 25 from time. Yes, you lose on 25% from time.
I mean, this is like one of those cases where obviously a rotation and a sheet kind of don't matter as much, right?
Mhm.
If I play Raiden Hyper and I one-shot the first wave and then I can't do anything with my autos, it's a very different problem than having, the ability to completely rotate around, right? Or even the opposite case where you finish out your rotation and they have a smidge of health, and you really don't want to expend any of your bursts, right? In the Abyss, things are different. I mean, context matters, obviously. The calcs can only mean so much. All of it's prefaced already. It's just some units can deal with it a lot better than others, right?
But yeah, I disagree with the statement that like Shenhe is baseline a C6 Rosaria, right? Like because when you say something like that, like people are going to interpret that as, well, I don't have C6 Rosaria. I want a C6 Rosaria. Maybe I need to get Shenhe for my Ganyu team, and like it's very like there are a lot of teams where it is not going to be an upgrade over Rosaria, even low constellation Rosaria. So I don't like blanket statements like that.
That's fair, yeah.
Rosaria is too good. It's funny because
Any other inputs? For Shenhe?
I mean, I really, on the topic of 15 versus 20, I actually really enjoyed the 15-second rotation of Ganyu. It just significantly more comfortable, especially against the wolf. And you cannot miss charge attack because you don't use charge attack. Maybe it'll be different for like Future Abyss when there is a situation where 20 seconds is more preferred. Like, because right now the main enemies are the wolf hound, which prefer the bully. Like you keep up freeze, which means 15-second rotation. But the thing here is like, just because 15-second rotation is better does not mean you can't use Shenhe, right? Like you just do charge attack. In fact, the old Morgana rotation was like 20 seconds anyway. So it's like the thing is like, oh yeah, Shenhe might not be like really good for Ganyu, but you can still use Shenhe with Ganyu if you choose to. Which again is like a good thing. It's like, oh, if you roll Shenhe,
Yeah.
you'll get value out of Shenhe. It's just like you will get value out of Shenhe. That's pretty much it.
Art staring at his unowned Mona.
I mean, to be fair, yes, Ganyu, Shenhe, not really as good as Ayaka Shenhe, because Ayaka Shenhe, the rotation actually lines up. But yeah, as Tanden said, you can still get value off her. It's just probably not as good as Rosaria, and that, especially given how comfortable the Rosaria Ganyu comp apparently is to play. I haven't played it yet, but Tenten says it's very good to play, and
Yeah, I think Morgana in
Yeah,
every
you
single
got
Abyss rotation.
Must be nice having Mona, bro.
Tech Hell.
On the topic of Ayaka and Shenhe, I actually kind of want to talk about that. I want to talk about the increase of Shenhe in that team, because I feel like there is this idea spreading around that like Shenhe like power boosts Ayaka by like infinite amount, but I don't really think so.
It's like
Oh, yeah.
not that much over Kaya Rosaria.
And especially considering like you have to compare opportunity cost. I think a lot of people always forget about opportunity cost. The cost of you rolling for Shenhe mean like equivalently you could have rolled it for a Ganyu and pair Ayaka and Ganyu together. I'm not saying it's better, but I'm just saying you could have done that because you're both rolling for 5 stars. If you want to spend a little bit more money, you can roll for a 5-star weapon. Obviously, 5-star weapon and character are not exactly the same cost, but this we can guarantee. If you choose between Shenhe and a Mistbitter, Mistbitter is better by I don't know if a significant amount is a good word here, but it probably is.
It's a pretty good amount.
Yeah, like
just because Ayaka and her teams is doing, assuming that you're running like Forno Bless Kaya, like you're just hyper buffing Ayaka, which tends to be the best way to build Ayaka's teams for teams.
If you're gonna roll for a 5-star item to boost your Ayaka, there's Mistbitter to consider as well, which is a huge amount. Because Mistbitter is
So the thing about
the best weapon.
Splitter is the best weapon.
Mistbitter is the best
game,
weapon in
don't
the
get me
game.
wrong.
So
Dog
the
shit.
way I look at Shenhe place in an Ayaka comp is this: Ayaka comps, there's a large segregation between high-end Ayaka comps and low-end FTP Ayaka comps. High-end Ayaka comps are comps that I would say has the Hydro Anemo pairing of Venti Kazuha with Mona or Kokomi, while the lower end is Xingqiu or even Barber if you're really scuffed with Sheen or with Sucrose. And Shenhe's slots much better and much more comfortably in the high-end Ayaka comps with Kazuha and Mona / Kokomi, rather than the Synchro / Sucrose and even Barbara with on the lower end, because Shenhe in an air comm is a full offensive unit, and you lack a lot of consistent freeze, and you also lack and also if you run Shenhe, you don't have the option of running Diona if you still want both Animal and Hydro, and you lose a lot of defense just by running Shenhe, and it feels actually pretty bad compared to like have in the higher end comms, so you have a much more reliable and much longer freeze duration just by the virtue of Kazuha Venti, and you either kill them super fast with Mona, or you're super safe with Kokomi as well. And Shenhe slot a lot better in there, because in our comms she's a full offensive option. Well, in most comms she is a full offensive option, so...
Yeah.
I think while it's fair to say, yes, you can't run Diona in Ayaka comps, I'm just gonna be honest, I hate running Diona in Ayaka
What?
comps.
I mean, like,
anyways.
Diona in lower end.
You guys say
in Ayaka comps.
Diano?
I
I
do
say-
not
Bro,
like Diona in
I
Ayaka
think
comps.
Diona is one of the worst units in the game.
What?
It's... when
I
you
say-
compare Diona
You're
in that comp
playing
to
a
Kaya,
freeze
Diona is
team?
definitely
Why
one
do
of
you
the
need
most-
a healer?
Oh,
You're playing a
what?
freeze team. Why do you need a healer?
Wait.
wow.
Wow.
She's fine with him. She's
Diona
fine with him.
bad.
if I can get away from resetting, I will fucking do it. Okay, I
Yup.
reset too much. I don't want to do any reset anymore. So when I trust my comms, I would try to make sure I have an assurance option. And also, I think the owner Pure is really underrated with like how insane her energy generation is. With like just Fastball wise, with like her holding, she generates a lot of energy. Like. And with Sackball, she's one of the best cryo batteries, like burst cryo batteries. So
But Kaya does as much.
But
Kaya does
Diano
how much we have to
has.
swap to him
Yeah,
as
but she
much.
doesn't have
Yeah,
heal
but-
and heal.
No,
No, you-
Kaya's E on frozen targets generates 4 to 5.
Yeah, it's more energy for Kaya. If you have an R5 Fab with Kaya, you're generating three
Or you can go
clear
Sack.
particles plus 4 to 5 cryo particles each
His
time on a
passive is
6-second
mistranslated,
cooldown.
yeah.
Yeah, on a 6-second cooldown as opposed to a 15. I just like Kaya in Ayaka teams so much more. than
More
Diona.
particles on a lower cooldown? Sign me the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of Diona's value was diminished since they moved away from ley lines based on auras that are attached to your character. Because what makes Diona unique is that she applies multiple gauges to yourself, so you can swap between your party and cleanse those debuffs off really quickly. But since the whole slowing waters thing didn't really pan out, they've been
Okay,
scared to use
I'm
that.
fine with the owner stay bad if they don't
Yeah.
bring back waters, flowing waters. I hate
What?
that.
Yeah.
I love
To be-
Diano.
There's another use for Diona that I personally really like, which is standing inside of a Venti or a Sucrose burst and using your E to infuse it with cryo.
Oh,
And
yeah,
you can
yeah, I
you
love
can
that.
do that to deal with like elemental shields a lot more easily without having to like slot in a high source of cryo application in teams where you generally wouldn't.
Hmm.
Or even in freeze teams where you end up running Diona, like you'll probably also be running an Animo unit, and if that Animo unit is Venti or Sucrose, and you're fighting an Abyss Herald or another enemy, Abyss Lector, any enemy where like fast cryo application is good, you just use that Animo burst and then stand inside of it and self-infuse with cryo, and then you can deal with the shield really easily, which is nice.
Yes. For those who don't know, if you have an aura applied to yourself, that can cause Animo things like Venti's burst to absorb with that self aura. That's just the explanation for what Sajid is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Although,
Then,
wouldn't Kazuha want to, or I forgot Kazuha's infusion priority. Is it cryo last?
No,
It's
Carlos
Kazuha's
like
never gonna work because you're
It's-
always gonna use
let me
your
check.
Q and then you swap
Yeah.
the Diona. But by the time you swap the Diona, your burst is already infused.
Yeah, it's already like hydrated, but
yeah.
I guess it might
The-
work with Venti. I haven't tested that.
Yeah, the reason why it works on Kazuha and Sucrose is because their burst only infuses from things that are in the center of it. So you can what you do is you aim it like slightly away from the enemy, right? So either you walk a little bit further than the actual range of the ability, or a little bit closer than the actual range of the ability, and then it either goes past them or not quite to them, and then you go inside of it and you infuse. Why are we talking about how strong Diona is?
Yeah, why didn't look at Diana?
Yeah,
You put all
Because
that
her
take that
burst-
she was bad.
I think we're
Wait,
done
doesn't
with
her burst
Shenhe,
have the
right?
same-
I mean, but overall, Shenhe, pretty cool unit. I think she's either overrated or underrated by a lot of people, depending on how you see it. Some people think she sucks. I don't think
Probably
so.
underrated by most people.
Probably underrated by most people, but she definitely like is not broken either. So it's pretty balanced. It's just that there are a lot of cryo characters that are also really strong. The only real thing that hold her back is she's a 5 stars, which is pretty expensive.
Did you just say
Then-
Shenhe is a pretty cool unit, Tenten?
Cool.
Oh my god.
Oh my god,
Hazel.
bad
Nick
chance.
Hazel.
Style cringe. Okay, want to talk about the rerun unit, which are Xiao, Ganyu, and Zhongli? We have a lot of time.
Right,
so.
you forgot Yunjin, and we haven't talked
Oh.
about Zhao yet.
Yunjin, yeah. Alright, fine. Yunjin.
Who has TC Yunjin? Because not me. I don't know anything about this character.
I only know about how she
Sense
was
now.
healing.
Yeah,
Same.
that's it.
Oh my
I-
homies hate Yunjin.
I know that Yoimiya is pretty good with Yunjin. Bad chest.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. Her interaction with Yunjin, or her interaction with Yoimiya, pretty cool, guys. I think like in general though, Yunjin with like Bennett, that buff is like very, very potent. So I'm not saying it's a very optimal way to play, but I'm telling you, like, if you run around with Yunjin and Bennett, you can bop things really hard. But that's not really what the game is really focused around.
You can left click pretty hard, that's what you're
as-
saying.
As for her value for Yoimiya, there have been calcs done that show that for Yoimiya specifically, Yunjin allows you to free up Bennett from
Yes.
her team composition.
That's the
And
biggest theory crafting, is that Yoimiya with Yunjin is arguably better than with Bennett, which lets you use Bennett on the other side, potentially with like a Xiangling, for example.
Mhm.
Now,
Xiangling's
sad part is Yunjin does not solve core fundamental problem with Yoimiya. So I think the most common question people will ask is Yoimiya good now with Yunjin? And the answer is I don't think so. Yoimiya is still the same core character, which is the same amount of problem like single target and stuff. Single target is probably the biggest one. So in fact, Yunjin doesn't actually buff Yoimiya by that much. It's just equivalent or a little bit better than Bennett. So you will get the same performance unless you choose to run both Bennett and Yunjin together. But then the question is like, what do you give up for to do that, right? So
It's slightly worse than Bennett, is what I remember the calculation.
it's like either slightly worse or slightly better, depend on that's why I say arguably. It's like
Yeah.
depend. It just depends. Equivalent is
remember-
good enough.
Yeah. Edison's calcs showed her to be slightly worse. Although, to be fair, it's not too relevant because I think they're within 10% of each other.
Also,
which is a decently large gap, but still, it's not too.
Also,
big.
Yunjin doesn't heal, so Bennett is.
That is true.
I mean-
I'm sure there's more to explore with her. But like, to be honest, there's not that many characters in the game that scales specifically off their normal attacks. What do you have? You have like Crescent Pike Zhongli, you have Eula, you have Noelle, and Yoimiya, right? So
Yeah.
Razor.
Razor.
Razor, yeah.
You have Xiangling.
And
Bruh.
you know,
Did you just say
Yoimiya-
Xiang?
So Yunjin
This
is
guy.
like
You don't like Crescent
Yunjin
Spike
is
channeling?
competing. Yunjin is competing against units that have specifically like normal attack proccing on hits, right? So like official C6 or official C6 or Beidou Q. And the jury's still out on that, and I don't think many people are doing much Yunjin TC, so it might be hard to answer for now.
Yeah, only a few people doing that from what I checked. Maybe
I
something's changed.
I guess we can talk about Xiao now, since there's a Xiao rerun going on.
Well, I mean,
And
are we done with Yunjin? I mean, I feel like everything is going so fast today. It's just like, oh, this character is okay. Move on. This character is okay. Move on. This character
Well,
is
it's
okay.
been like an hour, or it's already been like an hour and a half.
But that's
I mean, we just have to cover a lot.
Yeah,
And
okay.
get
We've been
derailed
going for
once.
quite a long time.
Moving on. Okay, we have Zhao, right?
Mhm.
This is his first rerun in almost almost a year. This is like what, 11 months ago he was
Literally, actually, a year. Actually, I think it's
yeah. Crazy.
Hmm.
Okay. Zhao. He's
still Zhao.
it's Zhao. What do you guys want to know, man? It's fucking
Are you the Xiao main here? You're gonna say something. You're the Xiao representative.
Oh my god. Okay, I mean, I don't think he's really changed like at
I
all.
don't think he changed. I thought about it this
He
morning.
literally-
Mm.
I don't think he's changed literally at all. No units have come out to make him like any
Yeah.
better or anything.
I mean,
like that.
there have been like 2 changes
Albedo got better.
to Xiao's perception with like to TC's perception of Xiao within the meta, which are namely Albedo getting a slight buff, which makes his double Geo team a little bit stronger, which is like, okay, cool. And people realizing how strong Favonius weapons are, which led to the rise of Nashauno.
Oh no. Not
Nash
another
out,
national-
no.
Yes, sir.
FAW.
Okay,
I mean,
and-
he's still the same. He's quite strong. It's Zhao. You stick a Sucrose with the Thrilling Tails on him, and you can walk 2 dogs with that. That's pretty much it. You can run a Gene with a Fav Sword if you really want, but like in general, Zhao's still Zhao. He's not like
Oh yeah, what about any thoughts on Shimenawa? Like
Shimenawa
it's like-
Xiao?
it's like what was like the actual take on it?
Four piece?
Xiaomei's looked at it. Yeah, they said it was bad.
It is pretty bad. Energy, like,
You make use of it for 1 rotation maybe, and then you're screwed.
Oh, so it's basically a
what's
one
his best
shot
artifact
build.
set now? Is it double attack?
It's either
it's-
double attack or
yeah.
double or attack 2 piece
Anemo.
attack, 2 piece VV. It depends on
very, always the
depends on
same
your
thing.
stats
But-
and buffs.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's about
To
it.
me, I don't. Xiao's like the same as always. Xiao's exactly the same as a year ago,
Mhm.
and that is his selling point has always been he do very consistent and large AOE.
Yeah, I mean, his problems haven't even changed. Even
Yeah,
with
he
the
hasn't
rotation,
changed at all. Like
enemies,
his selling point is
his problem
consistent.
still is like sometimes enemies get pushed away from his plunge. It still happens with the dogs. So like it's just him. He's still the same.
It's just,
I
just
mean,
him. Yeah,
you-
it's like it was the same exact thing we called out a year ago. It's like Xiao is.
if you're hopping around on Zhao against the Geo bishops a year ago, you're hopping around on Zhao today with dogs. Like he's cool. I mean,
He's cool.
there's nothing to really say.
I don't know. His selling point a year ago was large AOE that's very consistent. His selling point today is still the large AOE that's very consistent. Like especially
Oh,
against the Magu Genki,
is-
it's really noticeable how good Xiao is against that the triple Magu Genki. Just because like they don't
mean,
group well.
something did change. Not change really, but we kind of ignored it a long time ago. Fluffy, when we were doing TC, found like a long ass time ago that collision damage. If you plunge on Zhao and you literally land on top of something, you'll get the collision damage, and your plunges do pretty decent single target damage. But that's a skill issue.
Oh yeah. A
So-
year ago we didn't. When we talked about Xiao, we don't really talk about pun damage. Mostly because back then,
Hey,
like,
speak
it's-
for yourself, homie.
Okay, real
Against
talk
enemies
though.
where- Against enemies where that matter, it's enemies that are easier to do it with as well.
Yeah.
Like single targets or like 2-3
Obviously,
enemies are usually
Skill
large enemies, so-
issue.
Obviously, you're not going for you're not going for plunge damage or collision plunge damage.
On a
On a
slime or
No,
Or
but
like
you
a
can
s-
do it
yeah.
against the wolves.
you can do it
Yeah,
against the wolf. It's pretty consistent actually if you know how to do it. You have to like
Yeah.
skill issue it, but
Other than that, he really hasn't changed. Like
yeah,
much.
he actually has not changed. He actually not changed. He was a decent balanced character that was not too overpowered a year ago, and he's a decent balanced character that is not too weak now. Even though it feels like it changed because other character came out.
Honestly, there's something therapeutic about all the characters recently are being really average and balanced. So there's no trauma. It's not another Raiden incident.
Well,
No
Kick
drama,
weight,
Pepe.
kick weight W.
Mm.
They just have to
um,
release another Hydro main DPS. That's it, or just a Hydro.
Do you guys
main
think
DPS.
here's a I think a
The
lot of
moment, the moment the character comes out that applies just as much Hydro as a child does, but is on field.
No one will ever apply as much Hydra as Child. man.
Okay, yeah.
It's
like it's actually never happening. Child applies like way too much Hydra.
How do I remind
think-
myself to look back on this VOD and see if it was accurate when
honestly,
ISO
like
comes out?
I mean, like we can scroll back. We can scroll back the clock, guys. Xingqiu C6 applies a lot lot of Hydro, and then
It's not nearly as much as
They
Child.
literally, I mean,
pre-nerf,
yeah,
pre-nerf one.
pre-nerf.
Xingqiu C6 stealth nerf by the I don't mean a lot of people probably don't know this, but Xingqiu's got stealth nerf in Genshin. Like he got nerfed after like 1.1 or something, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
his swords.
Yeah,
It
he
wasn't
got
1.0, right?
it was like between
It was
it
during
was
Klee Banner.
Klee Banner. It was Klee Banner. Xingqiu got nerfed
Yeah,
during
that's right.
Klee Banner. If you guys didn't know that.
Oh, was that
It-
1.0?
Yeah, it was on point.
Swords, I think what was it? How do you describe it? I think the swords individually all
Yeah.
applied Hydro.
So he used to
Yeah.
apply 5x1U, and now he only applied 1x1U.
Well, it's 2 on the
Oh, on
last,
C6.
right?
Yeah, I guess yeah. So
I mean, you said 5.
Yeah.
oh, it's
so
like 5. I guess
would
that's also
assume
C6.
C6,
Yeah, okay. Fine. It's 2.
Maybe-
It's 5 to
yeah,
2.
Maybe I'm exaggerating, but like the moment a like Hydro on field comes out and it's like Xingqiu levels of Hydro app, it's gonna be like
Power creep by child.
we're
It's
gonna get
apply more?
whiplash from it. It's
Oh
gonna be-
no, another incident.
Incident.
Just
Well-
wait, just wait.
Anyway, there's something I want to talk about, and that is, do you guys think Xiao really need an artifact or support? I feel like, I personally don't think he need either, but there's like a lot. This is like a pretty common take. It's like, oh, Xiao is bad because he doesn't have support or artifact. I think that's completely not true at all.
Like,
I think, like-
That's true to say he doesn't have support.
He
I
will
think Xiao
appreciate
is-
it, but he don't need it.
Xiao to me is pure stat check. So he doesn't have like hard synergy with a lot of supports like Raiden does. But supports with him aren't bad. Like people like always think like you have to have like Hu Tao Xingqiu or Bennett Shuling level of synergy for it to be called synergy. For it to be
Yeah,
like you need a
honestly-
support. But
Zhao's like fattest damage increases literally come from upgrading from a 4-star to a 5-star spear. Like like
with Xiao like
not exactly obviously, like you can go full Geo and it'll help a lot, and TTDS helps a lot, but like I mean Zhao's just stat
Wait.
check. You either hit like 50k plunges or you don't.
Hold on. I just realized
it's
Xiao.
not, you don't need 50k.
You guys know
I mean,
what?
yeah, obviously
realized
you go way over, but like
Xiao
yeah.
Xiao got a new support. Yunjin, you can normal attack
oh
when you plunge on
attack
Yunjin.
No, Tenten.
I mean, if
Wait,
you have
Xiao-
nothing,
Shit Xiao with Yunshin incoming.
no, I mean,
Boy.
you could do it to get double geo and like to do the normal attack like right before you plunge. But realistically speaking, like if you have anything else that's better, just do it.
Oh, no.
It's not unusable, okay? It's at least it's not unusable, okay?
I actually have
Honestly,
no idea how good or bad
the-
it is. It's probably pretty bad.
Okay,
The
I
thing-
think
the thing
you're
about-
giving art aneurysm.
Yeah, dude. The thing about Xiao and like needing a new artifact set is like what people don't realize is like what they could have just released him, gave him an artifact set that gave him like a 10% DPS increase, and made all of his numbers 10% lower.
Hmm.
and then people wouldn't be complaining about him not having an artifact set, even though he would be
True.
exactly as strong.
Yeah, people
True.
just it feels like just like a thing that people throw out there. It's just like
It's
an
placebo,
artifact
yeah.
set doesn't like make or break a character.
Yeah, and him not having an artifact set, if anything, is a good
It's
thing.
a good thing. Yeah.
It's
because
the
it means he's
same-
more flexible in terms of artifacts. He
It's
can
the same
use.
logic with Electrobad. It's
It
like
means they're
they
gonna
just
give him an
focus on
artifact
one
set, go
aspect
PM.
Mhm.
without like.
It's
looking at,
so
like, the
easy to
total
get good
picture.
artifact on Chao. Like, oh
Yeah,
goodness.
because
You
you
naturally
like
farm it.
you on like 90% of accounts, probably even fucking more. You really want to farm like 3 sets of emblem.
So
And then
yes,
on top of that, like over the course of a few months, if you play, you're gonna get a lot of glad pieces from world bosses, from Ascensions, from Clearing Abyss,
Abyss.
from like
Yeah.
right, like your Shimenawas and glad pieces just come to you for free. And then on top of that, you also really want to have some pretty good EMVV pieces, which are like relatively rare drops. EM is the rarest
Mhm.
main stat for Circlet and Goblet, right? Which means you're probably going to spend a pretty decent amount of time on the Viridescent domain as well, because you need to gear your Kazuha/Sucrose/Venti/whatever animal unit. And so you end up passively farming for Shao incredibly easily.
I
On
think
the
Shao
flip
is the
side,
easiest character to gear
you
in the
farm
entire
for-
game.
On the flip side, if you farm for Eula,
Oh,
Pale Flame locked.
Okay.
It's the exact opposite though. That's a good comparison. Because the thing is, Pale Flame, if you're farming for Pale Flame, you're only using that artifact set on a single character, and you're farming that domain for a single character. Like no one is
Yeah,
farming
and-
Tenacity. That's
Yeah,
true.
I can't get into trouble with Eula Banes again, okay?
I don't want literally not
Help
mentioning
him, oh my
Eula
God.
for today's podcast. You gotta.
From
I
Yeah,
Back.
actually-
no, but
I actually stopped playing Eula for this Abyss. Like, I know I was supposed to be the Eula main, but like this Abyss is the dogs are way too bad for Eula. I just stopped playing Eula. I just play, yeah. I just want to Ganyu, and I just have a much
Bro,
better.
you need more Raiden cons. You need more Raiden cons.
You
for
Reddit
Eula.
post.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah,
What is this next?
I
Oh,
think Shao is just artifact wise is the easiest character in Genshin to farm. I don't know if there's a easier character to farm
I mean-
than Shao. It depends on what you like.
that is the reason he's easy is because you have other characters that aren't easy,
Well,
but that you want to farm.
But you want to farm
right?
for
So
them
it's
anyway.
not-
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like he ends up being a character that you gear up without trying to,
Yes.
which is really nice.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like you magically get better artifact. That's not what I'm saying. But it's just like
Mhm.
you might as well as magically get an artifact because you get it anyway. It's pretty much it.
Yeah, like if your account is AR55 and you've been farming the right artifact domains, you probably have a pretty fucking solid 4-piece set for Shao that you could give him. Well,
Yep.
2-piece set.
Two
for
piece,
Shao.
2 piece. Yep. But yeah, I think Shao could appreciate slightly better support than Sucrose or Jean. Like one, it has to be like a combination of both. Like one that both heal and generate a bundle of energy. But I don't think he specifically need one. It was like, it's mostly Shao support mostly come down to better quality of life, which is again energy and healing. Because those are his 2 drawback. Which is not too big of a deal. You don't need healing if you're good at the game. You don't need energy if you're like.
Okay, well,
Okay,
I mean,
you do
Zhao
get-
literally just drains your HP, homie. It's not
Yeah,
about
you
you
never
being good or
hit, you'll
bad.
never die.
You just lose HP.
You can't
Well-
fucking dodge when you're plunging, my man.
Yeah.
Okay, about that, I see so many people saying that Shao needs a shield more than other units because of that. Hell no. A lot of units have committed animations, but Shao, you can actually you have one more axis to dodge.
You can glide in the middle of the air.
Yeah, or you can jump slightly later by doing a charge attack before your jump. Like the skill set required to dodge attacks isn't the same. It's slightly
I mean,
different to other units, but you have more things you can do.
A plunge is something around 70 to 90 frames, right? It's
75.
a second and a half. There's not that many skills in the game that lock you in an animation for a second and a half or more, right? It is very possible to play Zhao in a way that you can, not jump up into the air when a ruin guard is about to smack you out of the air. Obviously, I mean, they're just saying like, I would argue that it just feels extremely bad.
Yeah, I think it just
Like up in the air
feels
and then get
annoying.
whacked out of it and then just die.
Yeah.
But
Fair to say that like if you fuck it up, it'll feel like shit.
It feel bad.
But
It's
it's
not
just-
necessary.
I see it so often. So many people say that Xiao isn't good if you don't have Zhongli, or is unplayable if you don't have Zhongli.
It's just like you will appreciate a lot more. I know people run
it's a lot more comfy. I'll say that.
people run like what Xiao, Sucrose, Jean, and Bennett just to push damage.
Honestly, you could just run any like the next best shield. Like is
Diano.
Toma maybe? I don't
What-
know how strong his shield is.
No, Toma, if you don't normal attack, is not like his shield isn't that great.
Just
never
N1
mind then.
N1 plunge, bro.
True.
Yeah.
And 1J by
And one
chest.
and one
Yeah, oh my
and
God.
1J.
Okay, we're done here with Zhao. Yeah, nothing much.
Sure.
Nothing.
Oh, speaking of N1J, I
Okay.
forgot. Yunjin can you can use Hu Tao with Yunjin because you do N2C. Not
Yeah.
N2J.
It forces you to do N2C, but like
Yeah, it's
she
pretty
ends up
good.
being pretty decent.
It's
yeah.
pretty decent.
Is it
But
pretty decent? Is it?
it is pretty decent with
appreciable
Hu Tao.
over like Zhongli.
Hmm?
Is it appreciable over Zhongli? Like how big of a difference?
I
You replace
don't
Albeit.
know.
It's more like a
Yeah,
if you don't
yeah,
have
I
Albedo.
think- Yeah.
Not
Really?
replace. Replace is not the right word. It's like if you don't have
Her-
Albedo, it's a substitution.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but N2C for a lot of people is harder than N1C, so like do keep that in mind. if
Skill
you're planning on playing Yunjin.
issue.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think it's reasonable to assume that people know the animation cancels on Hu Tao. It is extremely, extremely esoteric and very, very niche knowledge.
Mhm. Alright.
There's no guide out for it. Like, it's very like any information about the animation cancels is very old.
No, I made a new one when Hu Tao rerun came out.
Oh. Good job.
Oh, augers.
Fogger.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think everyone knows right now that the best combo for is N1J. Okay, moving on.
N1J.
So the next characters are confirmed to be Ganyu,
Ganyu and
and
Zhongli.
Zhongli.
right?
Yep.
There's nothing really to note here. I mean, I guess so. I mean, it has been a year since Ganyu's return. Recently, there's been a lot of kind of, I don't know, strife, arguing, match,
Ganyu power
anger, that Ganyu is a bit lower in priority compared to like Ayaka. Specifically because like the Abyss counters and stuff like that, it's a little more difficult to play Ganyu. Her team comps have changed a little bit since then. The release of Kazuha helps her out a lot. You can sub Mona for Kokomi, all that stuff. But I mean, again, yeah, I mean, she's still very strong, I would say. We can get into the specifics of it after, but yeah, I mean, she's very anticipated as a unit. This will be the first time she's being rerun in over a year. And then, as for Zhongli, I know people who still don't have him. A very valuable unit for mobile players if they don't really want to dodge. His priority has, I would say, diminished since his first banner.
Second banner.
There's no doubt that he's quite strong as a shielder. But yeah, his value, I don't know. It's not like, it's nothing to like really go out of your way for unless you like really want to just turn your brain off, which is a valid want. So yeah,
Yeah.
I guess we can just deep dive into Ganyu.
We can start with
anyone wanna
Ganyu.
start?
I think Ganyu is still one of the most valuable DPS hero. Again, keyword here is valuable, not the strongest. I think there are a lot of misconception about Ganyu ever since she came out that she is really good because she do a lot of damage. In fact, I think Ganyu damage are pretty in line with other. It's really the other factor that make Ganyu more valuable than the other characters. I always see this argument about Ganyu, and that is, why is Ganyu strong? And then the first reply will always be, oh, it's because her charge attack do a lot of damage, and I think that's like not really the case at all.
No, I would say either.
I think Ganyu is the most boring unit to play in the game. And I think Charge Shot playstyle is really dog shit.
Wow.
I disagree. Dude,
Also,
Dora-
she's
okay,
ugly.
Just
Whoa.
Whoa, okay.
pure gameplay wise, I don't think there's a character that is literally more boring than Goro. His abilities actually like not
Albedo?
like, strength wise or anything. Dude, no. Goro actually feels like you are doing absolutely fuck all when you use him.
Just
Okay.
EQ swap.
You
Wait.
plop down your field or you cast your E, you get fuck all in orbs, it does like no stagger damage. And then what do? You just swap off of him because he doesn't do anything else.
Wait, but Albedo is press E and then swamp up. That's one less button than Goro.
Okay, but at least you see the things, dude. I don't think I've ever noticed Goro's burst.
Okay.
Okay, let's get back on topic with Ganyu. So, I think that Melt Ganyu is pretty underrated currently. A lot of people.
I
how
don't.
do you s-
Underrated is.
I don't know how to answer that as someone who plays a lot of Malgan.
So-
I can start as Ajif, I suppose, and then you can fill in any gaps I miss. But Melt Ganyu is a very interesting composition in the sense that like you can use Xiangling or Kazuha, and you rely on Bennett in both. Where you can hit very, very hard, right? It's very easy to clip out over 1 million damage within the 5 charge shots that you're shooting out from Ganyu. And in that sense, like it's very, very pleasing for a lot of people to play it, whether optimally or not. Like melting Ganyu's charge shots, like the idea of it already is quite appealing. But in terms of how practical it is, even as someone who plays it quite a bit, I don't know how to comment on it. It's very, it's so different from other rotations. I feel like in terms of how active you are, like you're just firing off your charge shots. You're doing everything you can possibly to just buff up these charge shots, and it's incredibly, in my opinion, expensive to do so. Whether that be unit or investment.
So it's boring.
Yeah, I would say unless you're like a really big enjoyer of like literally shooting a bazooka like every 2 seconds, it's not the most active playstyle at all. And you don't even use her kit. You just play her as a charge attacker. It's very, yeah.
To be fair, shooting a bazooka every 2 seconds is kind of fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, on topic, I think the true strength about Ganyu is there is no hard counter on Ganyu. There is not really a situation where you say, "Oh, Ganyu will suck here," and especially
Slimes, Pipila.
no. So
Yeah,
what I was gonna bring up,
Slimes,
especially, is like a lot of people always compare Ayaka with Ganyu, and surely, okay, maybe Ayaka is slightly better than Ganyu in some situation, but just because Ayaka is good in some situation does not magically make Ganyu bad, right? I think every single situation that Ayaka is good or decent in, Ganyu is also good or decent in. But there is more situation that Ganyu is better than Ayaka than the other way around. So that's what the value of Ganyu come from. It's like, oh, you can just Ganyu is more universal.
I would also like to add, it's not someone saying something. It's not relaxing playing Melt Ganyu. It is literally like, it is the opposite of relaxing. There's just a lot of things that you have to set up and keep track of when you play Melt Ganyu, and you have to not miss
Or die.
or get cool clammed. It's very easy for you to get owned in the 2 seconds that you're
But-
standing there.
Melt Ganyu is so easy.
I don't know. I can stand playing Eula, so I don't think it's.
And the
And
thing is
so-
like,
I think.
you're playing her as like a very like a hyper carry. There's not much sub
Mhm.
DPS going on. If you fail your charge attacks or miss, or you don't have enough investment, it just does not feel that great. I don't know how to really characterize Mount Ganyu very well. Like, it's strong if you're at the point where it just kind of one-shot shit, but I mean, you can say that about a lot of stuff. So, I don't know.
I would say Malganyu is cheaper to build than Freeze Ganyu, since Freeze requires more components. To
More expensive unit, like Mona
Yep, requires
or Kazuha
Mona,
or Venti.
mostly Venti.
Mostly Venti.
Venti and Kazuha. While Malganyu is, how do I say, Malganyu requires put a lot more stress on the player, but like building her to like the point you can actually play Malganyu is a lot simpler, and honestly, it's much easier to build for a Malganyu team than a Freeze Ganyu team, where I can definitely say that, wow, this Freeze Ganyu team is better than I just throw Bennett Shanley with the shielder and like
It's,
just use Malganyu. And
Okay.
Shimenawa is very cheap to farm, as like
I'm
this-
going
you
to
guys said
have to
before.
disagree with that, actually. I think that Freeze Ganyu is easier to build than Melt. Just because Melt Ganyu, you need Bennett, you need Xiangling or Kazuha, and you need Zhongli. Zhongli, I think you need to have. Toma Melt Ganyu feels kind of awful. Diano Melt Ganyu feels kind of awful. You really want Toma. I'm sorry, not Toma. Zhongli. You really want Zhongli. You basically need Bennett. Those are like two inflexible units, I think. You cannot replace them. And Kazuha Xiangling, you can swap them, but Kazuha is like very valuable in other teams. But for Freeze, you can like have Diana, or you can have Rosaria. You can have Venti, but you can also have basically any other Animo unit. If you're not specifically doing mobbing content, in which Venti is best in slot. And you can have Mona, but you can also have Kokomi. You can also have Xingqiu. And if you're really coping, but like still wanting to play Freeze Ganyu, you can theoretically also have Barbara.
She's pretty expensive as a unit, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
like you have Prototype Crescent, which is a very strong weapon for her, but she doesn't have much else in the way of like non-conditional 4-stars. And in general, her team comp synergies is like very, like if you think about the units that really synergize with her, I don't think that many of them are 4-stars. She particularly has exceptional interactions with other 5-star units, so I would definitely keep that in mind if you want to pull for Ganyu.
Yep.
Is also ignoring the fact that she's also quite strong just as she is. Like, you could literally throw together a comp that literally does not quote unquote work, and she will probably be more than enough to do whatever you want that's not named like or 11 and above.
Yeah, so to that end, I think Ganyu is one of the easiest character to get started, because you just build Ganyu and you do charge attack and call it a day. But once you hit the middle of the game where you're actually starting to build team, it gets harder to play Ganyu, just because her actual team that are at the top are really expensive to draft. Namely, like you need Venti and stuff that we've been talking about. So it's kind of like, okay, Ganyu at first, when you don't really care about team synergy that much, is really good, much better than other characters, because every other character needs some kind of team synergy. But once you have those team synergy, other character becomes slightly easier to draft until you hit that super expensive point on Ganyu, which once again you can draft good Ganyu team again. It's really interesting, actually.
I think the thing that most people are probably interested in is Ganyu's like value, and specifically with her contemporary Ayaka, right? And until like fairly more recently, it hasn't really mattered that much, because the optimal team compositions for Ganyu and Ayaka pretty much do the same things. They excel at just killing whatever you use the comp on. Obviously, or not obviously, maybe it's unknown to most people, but Ganyu does excel in situations where enemies can be mobbed. where you have more than 3 targets and they're all getting hit by the icicle, or you have an enemy that's large enough to get hit by all of them. Those situations are becoming a little bit more far and few between, where her icicles can hit multiple targets.
Quadratic scaling satch.
And in this sense, Ayaka's value has increased. In terms of just being able to just get out her damage more effectively, right? Her potential damage amount more effectively. But in terms of like compositions, Ayaka only has freeze, but it's still the same amount of like cost in terms of which units to really use, that you can use with them, or you should use with them. No, I mean, in terms of like pool value and pool subscription, I don't think they really change much. They're very different units. They can do the same thing, but they're different enough, in my opinion.
Yeah. On a closing thought, I think on the terms of investment and price, I think what separates Ganyu. Some may disagree, but I think freeze, if you want a high-end freeze that's going to be strenuous on investment for dollars, and melt is going to be strenuous on investment for resin, which you kind of mentioned this earlier at the start.
I mean, Shiban always changes it a little bit. I mean,
Yeah, you can melt Ganyu with Shibunawa. It's slightly better than Wander, I think. If you have a
and I guess I mean I can bridge over a little bit over her weapons, right? If you've pulled any of like the 5-star bow, like literally any of the 5-star bows, they're pretty much all usable on Ganyu. Like if you have a Thundering Pulse lying around, if you have even
Okay, actually,
let me look.
About that.
Let me
Go
look.
ahead.
On Melt Ganyu, yeah. But on Freeze Ganyu, like, in a lot of situations, Crescent is just better than the
If you can
5-star
proc the
option.
headshot at least.
Yeah.
I hate
I mean,
not
you
being
just-
able to proc
I-
headshot on Wolf, dude.
It's just the perennial problem, or the eternal problem with cryo units and Blizzard Destroyer. You have 40% crit, but you have fuck all on attack.
No, but like 72%. It's 70. You get 72, right, from Prototype Crescent?
Just from passive,
Mhm.
not including
Yeah.
substat.
Yeah, like the passive from Prototype Crescent is 72% attack at R5.
Prototype Ganyu
Like-
is so OP, they made the Wolf have no headshot. Actual fact. Prototype
Like,
Ganyu.
if you get the fucking proc on Freeze Ganyu, where a significant portion of your damage comes from your burst, bro, fuck the 5-stars.
Wait,
Give me Crescent.
the Wolf literally is explicitly designed to counter Ganyu Venti. You can't Venti and you can't headshot. Keck, wait.
Yeah, I 36 starred with Morgana yesterday.
But I'm 36 star in Volcana anyway. Unstoppable.
I mean, if you're looking at Ganyu's talents and stuff, like, bruh, her value is still the same as it was. Maybe it's been a little bit diminished because the enemy types we fight are harder, but holy fuck, man. 20% crit rate on your charge attacks, and then even if you don't use your charge attacks, you get 20% cryo damage bonus on your fucking in your field. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty interesting. I mean,
Anna.
Ganyu isn't Chengling, so
I think
it is what it is.
true. I think with especially the Ganyu banner, I think if you don't have Ayaka, you 100% should roll on the Ganyu banner, especially if you're a new player. The Ganyu banner is way too good. There's Xingqiu's and Beidou. And then you just like you can just like pretty much comfy gaming from there on. I think if you have Ayaka, it's a lot less pressure to roll Ganyu. You still could because you can pair Ganyu and Ayaka together, but obviously there's less incentive to do so. I think
mean,
every single player should roll for either one of Ayaka or Ganyu, meta-wise. I think like you want to have at least one of those two.
no, I don't think you'll regret getting either of them.
Yeah.
If you're wanting the answer between should you roll for Ayaka or Ganyu? I don't think it really matters that much. Whatever one. looks
Yeah,
more
I think like
interesting.
just pick the one you like more.
Like they both have like one of them has Amenoma Kageuchi, the other one has a prototype Crescent. Maybe the answer you're looking for is whatever you have more prototypes for.
True. Straight facts.
God.
But
That's a
I mean,
good
yeah.
one.
I don't
So
think you'll regret rolling for either of them. They're very
Mhm.
strong. It's ridiculous, kind of how strong they are. If anyone has any other comments on Ganyu, feel free to point it out here.
Ganyu
oh,
Constellation
nice.
and Weapon is not as good as Miss Bitter and Ayaka Constellation. Defense
I'm
Shed
not
Ayaka
digging-
Constellation.
I'm not digging for C4 Ayaka so that she can one-shot shit better. What is that? It's like
I mean, Whale though, like,
that-
if, like,
okay,
yeah.
dude, no, I like you have to think about like the value proposition here. Like, you're going to ask someone to get 5 copies of Ayaka so that she can one-shot shit a little bit faster. Really?
I think, but real talk, like, Ayaka have better whaling factor than Ganyu by a significant amount. If you like care, in which case, like, yeah, Ayaka is better than Ganyu. But otherwise, like, they're both really good. Just pick the one you like better. Some people like
True.
Ganyu better. Some
Is
people are
Ganyu
like.
Melt overrated?
Wait, I thought we were literally talking about how it's underrated like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the impression
Different,
is. I don't know what the
different parts of
impression
the community have a different perception on Melt Ganyu.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
hard to
I mean,
say
I
whether
can-
or not it's underrated because it depends on who. It depends on what you consider the rating of the community to
Yeah,
be.
just like how Shenhe is
True, yeah.
overrated and
mean, it's-
underrated.
I mean,
Sasuke.
in terms of TC, it's quite strong, but not many people really use it
Mhm.
because it's kind of fucking annoying to set up.
Is it really annoying to set up though? I mean, you just ban a Changeling and then you just attack on Ganyu.
If you're doing the Kazuha setup, it's very annoying.
Oh, the Kazuha setup
Kazuha
is
one.
annoying,
That's
yeah.
is definitely-
But that's skill
It's
issue.
more annoying, but I will play the Kazuha variation literally any. I hate the Shangling version so fucking much.
I feel like people don't.
Head
Also,
of
people
KQ1
forgot.
TC says he hates Xiangling. Clip it.
People forgot like
True,
you
I
can
do
use
hate Shangling, okay? I
What?
personally do not like Shangling. Yeah,
What?
fight me over
Same.
it.
Bop him,
I don't
mod.
like how she warps everything around her because she's so strong. But in terms of gameplay, I don't like battering her specifically.
I
Have you tried
can't.
running 300 ER?
Yeah, I actually run literally fuckloads of ER on my Beto and Shangling because battering sucks balls. Okay, but that's why I like Raiden so much. Actually, I run like 300% ER. I throw on her weapon, and you know what? She scales off of it, and we're fucking gaming. Okay.
God.
That's my personal opinion. Nothing to say. That's nothing like. I know Shangling's great. I know Child and Shangling are literally MiHoYo's gift to us plebs. Okay, I get it. It scales orthogonally with Hutao Xingqiu. It's great. It's fantastic. Just leave me alone. I don't want to play it. Okay, I'd rather play Diluc. Okay, and moving on to Zhongli, right?
Yep.
We've already had the opening. It's Zhongli. What do you want?
I think Zhongli is honestly like, if you know what you're doing and you really want a Zhongli, it's fine to get a Zhongli, but like
It's-
otherwise it's not. I think the more common take, to be honest, should be Zhongli is not really worth rolling.
I think at this point of the game, damage becomes more of an issue than survivability. And Zhongli still has his niche in like he's one of the best survivability units you can have.
I mean,
And like of course comfortability and stuff, but if I have an option to like choose between Zhongli and an offensive character, I would almost always choose the offensive character, even if they're like 4-star and super cheap. Like
yeah. The thing to remember though is that most players don't fucking play nearly as much as most like theory
Okay,
crafters, right?
I'm pretty sure I played a game like less than most casual players. I I don't think
no. Okay, people are very bad at this game. All right,
True.
like
I'm very good at this.
you
game.
see that when you're a streamer. Okay, people are very bad at this game. All right,
Or being a guhua.
Zhongli is the definition of skill issue.
Oh, no.
Zhongli is the fix. Sorry, not the definition. Zhongli is the fix to skill issue. Because so many people are just so fucking bad at this game. And like, no shade, man. You're bad at a video game. You have, like, you touch grass. Like, that's a good thing. But like, for those people, Zhongli is incredibly valuable.
I think you have to preface any discussion with Zhongli is like, yeah, if you want to turn your brain off, pick him. Like, there's nothing really more to say about that. But for like a meta perspective and like damage and stuff, the 20% res is not really that huge. And you can get away with like a lot better units that can do something similar. Like, you don't need a shield. Maybe you enjoy the damage interruption resistance, but we've already prefaced that. Okay, well, just dodge forehead.
Travel,
and-
Yahtzee. whatever that
For
is.
example, like a unit that you can really sub in here is like a Jean, for example, someone that can VV, do a little bit of sub DPS, and heal. So
And you don't need to go to the bathroom while waiting for her burst to fall.
Wait, but what
just
if
as long as
Zadra,
Morgana binding.
what if you don't touch grass and you're bad at the game, like 10-10?
What? What? I just played Melganyu. I couldn't play it. But anyway, I'm not bad at the game. That's a delusion.
Yeah, you're
I'm
not
not
the game.
bad.
Your hands is just conditioned to play National and Morgana. There's a difference. So my take on like the skill issue thing with Zhongli is, it's again like, which portion of the player base are we catering our content? And you would
I mean,
assume that you would have to assume that players who like actually try a bit in the game.
I don't know.
Watch
I
our
don't think you
comms.
really have
Yo,
to say
ju-
much more than if you want to turn your brain off and you want a really strong shield, it's Zhongli. If you want more damage, use literally anything else. I think
That's
I
fair
don't
enough.
really think it's really that
Here-
complicated.
Yeah, but like, just here's the thing, right? Like, I do account reviews where I log into my viewers' accounts, right?
Mhm.
The amount of times that they're not able to 36 star, and I just get a 36 star first try, and I have like a minute to spare. Like, even people that consume theory crafting content are often very bad at the game. Because there's just so much to this game that a lot of people just aren't going to bother learning.
I mean, one of the biggest differences is just knowing how to build a team in the first place and knowing how to pilot it.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you add in the fact that like the abyss is changing, and some of the enemies are incredibly annoying, or maybe there's some level of RNG where they teleport sometimes. You know, I mean, there's definitely a lot of room. There's a lot of points of failure for like a very normal player, and there's
Mhm.
nothing. You should never feel bad that you can't like 36 star the abyss or like you play with Zhongli a lot. It's just for those that are more inclined to do more damage, Zhongli is just not a great pickup.
Keep in mind that if you are not beating the abyss because you're missing damage like timer, then you are never gonna beat the abyss with Zhongli. Zhongli actively brief your
Lowers the
damage
defense.
because he's never
Okay,
gonna replace a valuable character slot.
Okay, how I'm going to preface that statement is there are situations where Zhongli will make you clear the abyss, but that's premised on you being bad at the game. If you're actually good at the game and you can't 36 star, then Zhongli is not going to make you clear. But if you're bad at the game,
Okay.
then yes, there is a situation where Zhongli makes you able
Yeah,
to
I
36
mean, like
star.
for me, for example, when I try to clear the abyss and my brain is off, and if I throw in Zhongli and I'm like, maybe I'm running a comp without a healer, it is exponentially more difficult. But you have to preface it. Okay, my shit is already hitting way harder than it needs to be to clear something, right? And specifically, like Zhongli as a slot in for a lot of comms, like just plain and simple, the elemental resistance and the physical resistance shred is just not as impactful as like a lot of people think, and even like geo resonance with albedo is really not that like, it's not like a huge push for you to really prioritize getting Zhongli albedo or anything like that. No,
About
albedo
that,
is quite strong now.
yeah, I wanted to comment on that. The something that I've liked recently about recent support designs, although sometimes they shoot a little low, a lot of the supports are more niche and more specialized. So I think this is good game design. You can have more interesting characters, and team building is generally more interesting. But a lot of the older characters are designed to be more general and have less potential, but they can apply to a broad number of teams. But he kind of suffers when, as you say, there are a lot of options that on paper do more damage than him for that slot. But again, skill issue. So
I want like the gripes I have with just Zhongli and also the double Geo, also known as Geo Pros, with Zhongli albedo like combo with any like DPS in general, is that it does not only like helps you dodge the skill issue part, it also deters you from learning how to play the game itself. Because the Geo Pro combo is one of the most brute force thing in existence. It just gives you a bunch of stat, and if with those stat you can stat check a content, then go for it. With Zhongli, if you already have enough damage, even if you play pretty bad and you just need Zhongli to like stay alive until you can kill the enemy, then sure you can go for it. But it doesn't really help you play the game better. I saw someone comment that like, if we recommend Zhongli because of skill issue, why do we recommend Ben and Xiangling? And I think Ben and Xiangling, they are very simple to play, but they teach you core content of the game. We talked about this before, which you learn to snapshot, you learn to VV time, use time your reaction. Yeah, those are great skills to have that transfer into other units that you play with as well. While with Zhongli, I don't necessarily. He's a solution. He's a fix, not a solution, is what I would say. He fixes whatever you are having, but if you stop using him, you're gonna run into the same. Well, with
You got cut off. Internet died. Uh-oh.
oops. You guys can hear me, right? 163.
Yes.
Citri's mic is going back to scuff.
Oh no, doomed.
Actually doomed.
Is it better now? Sorry,
Yeah, it's just
Okay,
picking up other things.
my bad. Let me turn noise suppression.
I don't know. Is there like a unit or a team that really wants Zhongli besides Belganyu? And maybe some
well,
Zhao people?
yeah,
If you like Zajev said earlier, it's not a necessity by any means, but it's just a very easy way to access Animo Shred and turn off your brain while you're jumping up and down.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay to revote Zhongli, but if just know like he's not gonna be the reason why you're gonna beat the game. The thing I feel like people don't realize about Zhongli is like replacing a member is a lot of things you're giving up. Like for example, like if you let's say Raiden National, for example, with Raiden, Xiangling, Bennett, and Xingqiu, which character do you replace? And even if you could replace some of those characters, do you realize how much you're giving up? You realize how much you're giving up by replacing any given characters? Like, let's say you replace Raiden, like, do you realize how much you're giving up just for Zhongli? That's the reason why Zhongli is just not that good. It's you're giving up so much. But if you like, you're basically saying like, I can already beat the game using 3 character only, so I don't care what to bring all my 4th characters, and I'll just bring Zhongli. If you can beat the game using 3 characters, then you are not a person who is struggling. You know what I mean? Like, you have to beat the game with 3 characters in order for you to consider Zhongli. And if you can do that, you're not a person who is struggling.
Sorry, I just read something funny in my chat.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to respond to it or not. It's just funny. I don't know what to say.
Do you think it's serious?
I can't tell.
Following since 36 seconds ago? I think it might be.
What happened?
I don't have follower only chat.
What did I miss? What did I
Someone
miss?
in my chat is implying that we're bad at the game, even though Zhongli is really good in hard content like Vagabond. So okay, there's so many ways to go about this. How many times does an event like Vagabond come around?
I mean,
Once a year.
once a
Like
year so far.
once every half year.
Bro, I
wouldn't-
thought it was a copy pasta.
I wouldn't
Yeah,
say
I
Cube
think
event was
It
as
might be
hard
one
as that.
now.
Oh.
Oh no. The thing is, Vagabond, the new Vagabond, Zhongli wasn't even good in the new Vagabond. I used to think Zhongli is good, by the way, because I was like, oh, in case we ever get a Vagabond and you need Zhongli, he'll be pretty good. But he wasn't even that good in the new Vagabond. And for people's curiosity, I max pointed the new Vagabond. And so did
I
Saja.
mean, like there's so many ways to go around it. Like I said, Zhongli's very good for you if you want to play the game without having to dodge, right? And if you have enough damage for it, feel free, by all means, go ahead. If you need more damage, if you're lacking in damage to clear something, Zhongli is not the answer. That's it. Like, there's nothing controversial about it. It's just how it works, right? We could show you the math. Not that you probably care about it. That's it.
Yeah, honestly,
nothing
I
really
wonder
more
if
to
this
say.
person even knows that in Vagabond, Diona's shield actually tanks more than Zhongli's. I wonder if they know.
Absorb shit.
Because
chat
the
is
actual
down.
thing that one-shots you is the cryo thing, and Diona's shield is tankier against cryo shit than Zhongli's.
Oh my god, how do we keep going back to Diona?
Yo, Diana good, okay? You guys keep shit talking Diona and Diana. It's like,
Let's see me day 7 Vagabond on Max.
the
Okay.
best. Okay, well, let's like,
Give
back
me
to-
Vagabond, I'll do it on Max, sure. Whatever.
Let's go back to the podcast.
Yeah, dude. Yo, just go back in time. What? Why won't you go back in time?
Desert,
What?
Just wait 2
What-
years for the rerun of
What do you
Vagabond.
mean your units were level 60 at the time? Well, that's not a good reason to not be able to max points. What? What do you mean?
Wait, Cedric, what do you get out of what do you get out of max pointing Vagabond?
You don't get anything.
You get to feel superior to people who haven't done it, and then you get to flame them and be a dick.
What
Which
the-
is a pretty cool upside, right?
Hmm.
Or you get to brag about how much money you spend and how good you are at spending money. Because
Oh.
evident.
No, like it is a good upside. You get to be a dick and then not feel bad about it because you feel like you're superior to other people, right? Like that's fucking great, man.
Bruh.
So in the year and a half that Genshin's been out, we've had Hypostasis 1, Energy Amplifier 2, and Vagabond. That's it. There's nothing else that has really demanded anything higher than floor 12 of the Abyss. Right? So, I mean, yeah, I mean, you could just BTFO all of us and just say, why does it matter or whatever like that. I mean, if you don't want to get better at the game or learn how to do more damage, why do you need to be here?
Wait, when did I shit talk someone?
Okay, let's just focus on the podcast. Bad chase.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I have to stop reading chat, man.
Fucking copium. But yeah, overall I don't know. Zhongli just if you care, like it's fine. Like just if you know like why you're rolling Zhongli, like you know maybe you need him for a team that you feel really uncomfortable to play without Zhongli. Like you know, for example, like Xiao, you feel like you can't play Xiao without Zhongli, then you can roll Zhongli. It's not like Zhongli is bad, but you guys just have to know like Zhongli is not going to be the reason why you suddenly perform a lot better, unless you happen to like suck so much in the game that you can't play without Zhongli, which is a different story. Zhongli is never gonna be the reason why you're beating Abyss or even the Vagabond, to be honest. Almost never. There's only two reasons why you don't beat those content. One is you don't have enough DPS. Two is skill issues. Opa.
You can fix the first one by farming or opening the wallet.
Oh god, this is a rabbit hole, but
Anyways.
I actively dislike how people think the more damage you do equals the better you are at the game, even though it just means like you just spend more money on the game.
Well, I mean, the flip side is also true. Just because you spend money on the game doesn't mean that you're going to do more damage.
Oh yeah,
If I
but
spent all my money on C6 Kokomi, or even if I bought like C6 Child or any other C6 and I just don't know how to play it,
some people
DPS isn't gonna
would
be
think
up
like,
anywhere.
oh, this guy's doing so much damage, he must be really good at the game and he must know so much about the game. But it just means they saw more
it's
money.
an incredible underestimation of how casual players can be. I know there are people out there that are C6 Ganyu and their charge attacks do like 20,000 and they're perfectly fine and happy with that.
Well, yeah.
Right? So, I mean, it's whatever. Are there any other... What else is after this? After...
Yaimiko Sasuke!
Stop. We're not talking about that. She's cute, but we're not talking about that. We don't have anything known about her.
I mean, we can talk about what she looked like and how she's probably one of the most hyped
We're
character.
not. Oh, yeah, that is true. I think she's probably gonna destroy the internet.
I
I think
think
she's probably
yeah,
going to be just as popular as Raiden, and it's gonna be real bad.
probably more popular. So this is an important call to remember. Like, don't overhype on character. You guys know how the last one went, which is Zhongli. Zhongli was
Oh, no.
insanely hyped before it came out, and you guys know how that go. And for people who are not playing the game when Zhongli first came out, he was garbage. He was so garbage that it does. I don't know how to say it except for the word like other than that. But like, so many people wrote it for Zhongli on day one because he was so hyped. He was a Geo Archon. He looked cool. He yeah, and it turned out he's not good, and it broke the internet in a negative way. So remember, like, sure, Yaimiko look cool, but don't get overhyped.
I mean, we literally know nothing about her. Like,
Sasuke.
literally nothing. Like, it's just, as always, the recommendation from people like us is always going to be just hold off on your primo. Always wait. Unless you're already inclined to roll for them, no matter what they do, go ahead. Maybe you don't care whether or not you're gonna have fun on them, like their gameplay, and you're just gonna like how hot she is. Whatever. More power to you. I don't know. I mean, we can talk about the updates. I mean, what happened since the last time we were out? And Kanamiya came out.
Oh
But
yes.
before that, I just want to before that just clarify that I'm not particularly good at the game either. Like I'm not fucking bragging about anything.
Are you sure? I'm very good at the game.
No, you're not.
Cap. I'll throw a cap on that one.
I don't know why
It's just-
everyone always think I'm capping.
I'll
like-
throw a cap on that
Right,
one.
like really often people seem to think that theory crafters have a superiority complex, when like, bro, if anything, I just know how bad I am. more than other people
So
know how bad they are because I know more about the game and I know more about how much I'm fucking it up.
like
I and Bote, bro. Oh my god.
Oh
Right, like,
yeah, those.
I'm not very
Mechanical
good,
genius.
dude. I've been saying that I'm not very good at the game for a long ass fucking time.
You guys have not seen like how actual people play the game. Like you have to look at some of the KQM player who play on the controller. By the way, they play PS4 or something, and their APM is crack.
Fucking Boto.
Freaking
let's
360.
go.
They like 360 no scope a headshot to proc their trap or something.
like there's so many paths to clearing content in this game that it's hard to like nail it down to which one is actual skill and like even and then you get to the definition, a very pedantic definition of what even skill is in video game. And like some people aren't really that great at like adapting to the situation in real time and like plan out like their gameplay in the middle of like a fight, but they're really good at like crafting rotations or learning mechanics. Like that's how Theory Crafters does, right? It's not necessarily about how good you are like in the middle of playing the game. It's more about planning out stuff before you get into the content and succeed with that. Some people don't do that and they just naturally good at the game.
TC's for everybody. You don't.
Yep.
We don't
Some-
TC just who tells animation cancels.
Yep.
You don't need to be a fucking 200 APM mechanical
Yeah.
genius.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
TC.
There's
The
actually
bar
a
is much lower. If you're willing to learn and put up with like all of the acronyms and all the stupid memes, like theory crafting will take you any day.
yeah. There's actually a certain topic I want to bring up now that I remember about it, and that is how OP Phonius weapon is. But I feel like we're at the ending of the stream, so probably just for next time.
Didn't we start with that?
We
Before
mentioned it, but we didn't really go into it.
Hmm.
Energy.
Phonius weapon.
recharge cost
I think
versus
Phonius
burst
weapon is the most OP
accuracy.
weapon series.
Unfortunate. I should have waited to guest on the energy talk stream. I would have a lot to say.
I mean, I don't know what are we gonna do next podcast because we talked over all the Revan character already. So like,
It's nearly 2 hours now. We can
yeah, it
probably-
is.
I think we can just take questions and then if anyone wants to leave, go ahead. As always, thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to start our closing remarks here. For TC podcast. What is this? 8, 9,
8, I
Whatever.
think.
Eight.
It's at,
The
we
eighth
said
one.
it at the beginning. Okay, I am Artesians. I am a person from Kaching Mains. Yep, I'll let my
A
guests
person
do
from
their
Kaching
closing statements. It's always a pleasure to have you guys on. Thank you for being here, you guys, and chat as always.
All right.
Mm,
All right, Hazel,
Okay.
go.
Still muted because laptop dead.
Oh.
Okay, someone else say their goodbyes.
well, I'll go then. Well, see ya guys. Citri, it's always nice to be on the podcast, give my thoughts and everything, and just hang out with everyone. And yeah, have a good day. And hope to see you guys on the next podcast as well. Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, the smell.
Hit us with those primes,
This-
baby.
In
This
Prime,
podcast should be
Prime, any
posted-
Prime suffer for feet review stream.
This podcast should be going live on Tenten's channel, and it'll be added to Jin Jinx's playlist whenever I get around to telling him that we finished it. Tenten, would you like to do your closing remarks?
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube,
Okay.
which you probably are.
Zadif, how about you?
I've been Jeff. I hope you guys didn't miss the podcast too much. I know literally every single day for the past like 3
For
weeks.
fucking
Oh yeah,
real.
people always ask. DC podcast when ding dong, PC podcast when ding dong. Like every 5
Yeah,
seconds,
I-
someone asks that question.
It probably wasn't worth the wait, but I hope you guys enjoyed your stay.
When is the next one? Ding dong.
Yeah, every 5
Whenever we
seconds.
get around the schedule like that.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
All right.
Well,
I just
Anyway.
joined. What did I miss?
All right.
Oh my god. Okay, we're gonna take questions now.
Yep. I'm gonna
or
end the
if you
recording
have time,
here.
you wanna
So
leave.
goodbye.
Alright.